In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
7, 8, 9, 10. This podcast goes to 11. So, hey, Ryan Roxie with you, and welcome to In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie. Thanks again for listening. Today we are joined by lead vocalist, lead guitar player of the band Blackberry Smoke. Would you please welcome Charlie Starr? Hello.
Hi.
What's up, man?
Oh, man, just in the trenches.
That's what I like about this podcast, is because I get to talk with guys like you that have been making a living playing guitar, playing music, doing what they kind of always wanted to do. And, might not be a household name just yet. It's coming. But you guys have definitely been working your butts off to make yourselves a household name, and you've done pretty well, right?
Yeah, I kind of figured that over the years, we've been able to do this for a living. I quit my day job almost 20 years ago, and that feels like making it to me.
Blackberry Smoke started basically in the new millennium. So you are basically the new millennials band, if you could say that, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. That makes me feel a little bit younger, Ryan. I like that.
Well, the deal was, there was and I don't know, how old the difference of our ages are, but back in, I would say, maybe the late 70s, early 80s, there was a Southern rock sort of revival where bands like Molly Hatchet and obviously Lynyrd Skynyrd were the godfathers of it, but there was these types of Southern rock bands that became sort of a scene. And all of a sudden, kids from the suburbs, like me, Northern California suburbs, were all of a sudden going to Day on the Green concerts in Oakland, California, where we'd see Southern rock bands and completely be supporting it. Do you feel like perhaps you guys are the forefront or the godfathers of the new Southern rock scene?
I guess so. That sort of got stuck to us, and honestly, it's an honor to be. People talk about passing the torch and things like that. I don't know about that because that music is so sacred where I come from. And people are funny about that. They'll be like, that there's no torch to be passed. No one could ever fill the shoes of Greg Allman or Dwayne Allman or even Dickie Betts or Skynyrd or any of those bands. Really, I think it just is a happy accident that the band wound up in that position, because we never really set out to be anything specific. It just, we sound the way we sound when 5 random guys play together. And I think it's got a lot to do with the songs,
Right.
the type of, the way the songs are written, or even down to my accent when I sing.
Well, it's definitely authentic because you guys are from Atlanta. You guys are from Georgia. You are from the South. So it's not like all of a sudden you saw a Southern rock video or a Southern rock Netflix special and said, oh, we're going to be. No, you guys are born, raised, and grew up with this type of music, which I wonder, as far as early guitar heroes, they're not always going to be the type of music that you play. They could be a different genre, style of music altogether. But who were those early guitar heroes that you listened to growing up in Atlanta?
Well, I grew up playing bluegrass music and traditional string band music with my dad. He's a guitar player. He hates rock and roll. He only likes acoustic music, no drums, nothing plugged in. He's a purist, sort of like jazz guys. Jazz guys only like jazz. Bluegrass guys only like bluegrass. They don't like anything else. It's a strange situation, but he taught me the cowboy chords on his Martin, and none of my friends liked that music. They liked Van Halen and Black Sabbath.
Right.
And so one of my friends in the neighborhood got an electric guitar, and he instantly became the most popular guy in the neighborhood. So we all wound up at his house. He was plugging his guitar into his sister's stereo, into the headphones.
I know that trick. Trick well.
So we together, just a few of us, started to learn Sabbath riffs. And my sister's boyfriend, my sister was 4 years older, he had the first Van Halen record in 1984. And this was right around 1983, 84. I was about 11 years old. And that was earth shattering to
Wasn't
me.
it? Yeah. Yeah.
And because before that, I don't really think I was really listening to music. You know what I mean? Not really listening.
You
And
weren't
then,
thinking of the chords behind.
yeah,
Yeah, I just want to take people back when the minute you said cowboy chords. I love that term. It's for those that are listening, that because we do have a lot of players and a lot of players that are beginning to play guitar. First position chords,
yeah,
that open G, that D, and that's where I think most of our guitar knowledge comes from when we're learning. But
yeah,
now I'm kind of thinking, I wish I would have learned my power chords to begin
yeah,
with first, because then I would have been able to learn a lot more of those songs, especially off of Van Halen 1.
yeah. I was playing full bar chords, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that came from. And then one of those guys, my teenage friends, was like, "What are you doing, man? It's like this, you know." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so much
Two
easier.
fingers, man, just two
Yeah,
fingers.
that's all you need." But then, as my ears really opened, my mom loved the Stones. Um, she and my dad were divorced, so she was allowed. And
Yeah,
I got her Hot Rocks cassette and Honky Tonk Women and Midnight Rambler. Those were the two that I would just loop. And through the Stones, then you find blues. So I went
absolutely.
that rabbit hole. And then a little later, like 13, 14 years old, that's when I really heard the Allman Brothers Band and Leonard Skinner, which that music was omnipresent in Georgia and Alabama. It's on the radio or in people's cars on the stereo constantly
Yeah.
because it's sacred music there.
Such good music. I was turned on to the Allman Brothers actually later in life. I was. And I'm actually happy I was, because it was actually after I learned how a little bit around the guitar myself. So then I
Yeah,
could understand just how great their melodies and their leads were, and how good they were as just musicians. I just feel
yeah,
so many of those bands, it was something about the musicianship. Even though we have so much more technology today, the level of musicianship and the way they were able to put ideas combined with their technique, it created something really magical. That I don't know. I mean, you guys, I feel, are one of the better representations of carrying on that tradition.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Those, when I think about it, and everything you just said is so spot on. They were so advanced. If you listen to that live at the Fillmore Allman Brothers record, it's just an unbelievable ensemble. Greg Allman could have never sang a note, and I would still love that record just because of the guitar, the two guitars, the bass, two drummers, uh, just the complexity of those arrangements and songs. And those guys were kids, man. They were 23, 22 years old at the time.
I know, but you know what? They were early on the facial hair, so it was always
Yeah.
something about when you're in your 20s and then all of a sudden you have facial hair. You can go older earlier.
Yeah. Well,
Last.
yeah. Very, very a confusing photograph. I remember thinking, look at these old guys.
But you're being a purist, and you're talking about your father being a purist with the music. I'm always, I'm sort of a voyeur of your Instagram account, because you always put these pure instruments. You seem to be an instrument purist when it comes to the instruments that you play, the equipment you play. And I just get a kick out of some of the posts you put up, because you put up some great shots of good guitars, some good old Gibsons. I'm always commenting on the Gibson guitars you put up. Is that kind of what you play live? Is that what the rest of the band all plays, these, traditional instruments?
For the most part, yeah. I've got a real problem. I mean, it's an addiction. Um, I don't know where or when it started, but I really love vintage guitars and
Is that where
amps,
your per diem goes? Is that where your per diem,
and
when you save it up?
and then some. Our other guitar player, Paul, he doesn't. I'm a little envious of him because he doesn't have. He wasn't bitten by the bug quite as hard as I've been. I don't know. There's just something about old guitars, they have ghosts in them, I don't really feel that way about any other thing. I'm not terribly into old cars or old houses or old books. There's something about instruments and amplifiers. They're lived in.
One of our guitar players in the Alice Cooper band, Tommy Henriksen, he also plays in the Hollywood Vampires. He's that guy just that you're describing. He's on in the morning and he's checking out, like, whatever town we're in, he'll check out the local papers and see if there's any maybe hidden gems found. Do you actually go to pawn shops to look for guitars anymore, or do they even exist? Or where's your hunting ground for good old instruments?
Pawn shops are still a great place to find. I just found, we were in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I found a late 40s ES300 Gibson, a big hollow body, full size.
Nice.
Yeah, they're still there. But thanks to the internet, most people, when I go in, finding the incredible deal is almost impossible now, because people are like, Google, oh yeah, this thing's worth this much. Okay.
Well, but they could send all your leads to you. They could just send it as a direct message to, Charlie Starr.
Yeah.
You want, right? Just to help with your addiction, of course,
Yeah. Hopefully my wife won't be watching this, so she won't know my secrets.
Well, what is your go-to guitar on stage with the band? And do the two of you guys mix your guitars for different sounds, or how does that work?
Yeah, my go-to is an old 1956 Les Paul Jr. That's one of the first vintage guitars I ever bought back in the early 90s, when I got out of high school. And it was really peer pressure. A buddy of mine, I just moved to Atlanta, and a buddy of mine was working in a little mom and pop music store, and they had some consignment instruments. And this one belonged to Rick Richards from the Georgia Satellites, who was an Atlanta giant. We all thought he was the greatest guitar player. Still do. He was like Johnny Ramone and Keith Richards all rolled into one. But he had an old guitar for sale in there, that Junior. Somebody painted it black, and it was just a war horse. And so my buddy was like, "You got to buy this guitar," and I thought, "Am I buying it? Okay, I guess." But it was $650, which that was all the money in the world to me. I thought, how am I going to pay? But we worked a deal out, and but that one is, and it has stayed number one. And funny thing, I know you know what I'm talking about. Other guitars will come and go, and I love them for different reasons. But when I put that one on, it's home. It's always home. Nothing ever beats it for some reason. That's probably why it's so beat up, is because it's great.
Yeah, you didn't have to pay to get it relicked. It relicked itself over the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that one. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. To answer your other question, Paul and I, we used to really focus on, if I was playing a P90 guitar, he would play either a humbucker or a single coil guitar, because that's a great recipe. Right. Like you said, to sort of mix it up and get, but then after a while, that kind of goes out the window. It's like, nope, I want to play this one. I don't care what you're playing.
and sometimes a guitar looks good aesthetically for the type of song you're playing.
Exactly.
I know that sometimes if we're going to play a Alice Cooper 80s classic, for instance, I'll take out a Flying V just because it has a little bit more of that look. Although Flying V's is one of the most rock and roll shapes, iconic shapes, and very few people know that both the Explorer and the Flying V are from 1958.
Yeah,
they always assume that it's from a metal genre, but it's 1958, man. So
experimental.
Well, you were talking, you brushed upon it about the Atlanta musicians and the musicianship that has come out of Georgia. And I actually know that there must be something in the water, because I play with a guy named Joel Kosha. I don't know if you know Joel. He played in a band called Collective Soul.
Yeah.
Great guitar player. And I figure you guys probably all know about each other and know of each other. Just an amazing player. But is there something in the water down there in Atlanta, or how is it that you're raised to be so, I guess, technically proficient on your instruments?
I don't know. That's an interesting theory. Bono, he mentioned it in that Muscle Shoals documentary. He said, I think it's something about the river. Anytime there are musicians that were raised really close to a river.
Yeah.
Liverpool,
or a bayou, maybe a bayou.
Yeah. Liverpool, Muscle Shoals, Atlanta has the Chattahoochee. I don't know. Maybe he's got something there.
So are there, you guys, I'm going to see that guitar that you're playing tonight, obviously. I'm going to get to check you guys out tonight. You are on tour. You've been touring nonstop since you put out Find a Light last year. And that's your latest album, Find a Light.
Yeah.
What's it like touring with so many different types of situations? Because you're currently on tour with Bon Jovi, and then I can only assume that the rest of the summer you're probably doing some festivals and then going to do your own shows. So is there any preference that you have for being an opening band, a headline festival band, or just a headline theater band? Or what's your preference?
Well, I would say that headlining a show is preferable because we get to play longer. but really, I mean, any situation works. Writing the set list just becomes a little tougher because sometimes you get you guys are playing 37 minutes. It's like, wait a minute, that makes it a little tougher.
Do you have a set list that you do pretty much consistently? Are there do you have those 4 or 5 songs that Blackberry Smoke fans need to hear, or can you guys switch it up every night? How does that work?
We switch it up every night. There are a few that I feel like, well, thanks to social media, people let you know. There are a handful that if we don't play, people get angry. Our fans, that is.
Right.
Festival situations, it really doesn't matter. Those are actually some of the more interesting situations because you can really play anything that you want to, but even our headline shows, we change it every night just because, it keeps it interesting for us,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I kind of like to see the other guys in the band's faces because I don't send them the set list until about 4 p.m.
Is anybody ever brushing up on the songs right up until showtime?
Yeah, including me.
All right, that's good. I've been interviewing and seen a lot of bands that have this approach, and I've never seen anything as extreme as David Matthews, because I went to a Dave Matthews show earlier in the year, and their guitar tech, Craig Baker, used to be my guitar tech. So he showed me a huge computer screen of he said 287 songs. I didn't count it, but I trusted him. And he goes, you see that list? Every night there's a different list coming out of there. And
it could be anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes those guys don't get it until they're on stage.
Uh-huh.
And so what happens? There's a little bit of a break, and Dave Matthews has a talk back through just so the guys in the band can hear.
Yeah.
And it's like a team effort. The monitor guy will play a little bit in the in-ears of the live version of it, just so the drummer will get the time and the beat, and he goes, okay, I got it. And you'll hear this happening all through the break of a song. It's pretty incredible.
That's intense.
Are you guys, because you play different types of gigs, whether you're obviously playing arena stadiums with Bon Jovi right now, but then you'll go and headline your own theaters and bigger places. Are you guys all on in-ears right now, or are you old school monitors?
We're all in-ears except for the bass player. He's the holdout.
Really?
I've been using ears for probably about 8 years, and it took a lot of getting used to as a guitar player. As a singer, I love it because I don't really ever have to overdo it or push too hard we do with one night of horrible wedges. That'll kill you.
No, that's the thing, and I think at first perhaps audiences weren't used to it, but now they've seen enough, you know, American Idol and enough sort of TV shows where like, oh, enough Super Bowl special halftime shows where,
Yeah.
well, those things hanging out of their ears. Okay, we all understand that it's basically that's they're hearing everything else, and it is a huge game changer. I didn't never used in-ears until I came back with Alice in 2012.
Yeah.
So did you make the transition somewhere between the beginning of the band in 2000 till now? Because that is a big switch that a lot of people don't think about, going from wedges or monitors where everything can be different every night to a consistent sound.
It's yeah, we made the switch before our very first European tour, because the first time we came to Europe, it was a total punk rock tour. We played 22 shows in a row with no day off, and it was all these tiny little clubs. And I was thinking it's impossible. I'll never do this. And our new front of house guy at the time said, "Okay, you got to get ears. That way we have consistency, and that way you might have a ghost of a chance of pulling this off, you know." And we did it, and I just didn't speak for the whole tour. We did no press. I wouldn't speak at all during the day, and I smoked 2 packs a day then. I don't know how. We were younger,
Right.
I guess youth has a lot to do with it, but right off the bat, as a guitar player, I was like, oh, this is awful. Who wants to hear their guitar this clearly and specifically in their ears, you know? Actually, I was like, I can't play the guitar. This is horrible. What have I been doing? But you know, I found
You get used to it.
Yeah, and then also we finally got we hired a monitor guy full time he's really good at mixing these things. You know, that is a game changer.
And it's an art too. But you
Yeah,
still have the holdout of the bass player, huh?
yeah.
We have one holdout, but he's the one that pays for everything. He's the name on the marquee.
Oh, there you go.
Alice uses one in ear and then he takes one out. So if you ever see him live, you'll see one dangling down. So we still do have side fills when we bring him live. But are you trying to say that you bring a whole monitor system just for your bass player now? I don't want to guilt him. I don't want to shame him. I don't want to
Yeah.
monitor shame him or anything. But is it just for him now or what?
He's got a wedge or two, and actually the in-ear, our monitor engineer just mixes it. He's easy, which is great. He doesn't need much, you know.
Bass space.
Give me a little bit of the piano and give me a little of his vocal, and I'm good. So I think he's actually got a problem with putting things in his ears. He's got some sensitivity there. That's what he says. But I tell you what, we did a run last year with Government Mule, and their old school side fills. I think it might be there might be more PA on stage than there is hanging line arrays up front for them. It's like Neil Young, you know, with the huge side fills, and I would sit in with them at the end of their show, and for a split second there, I thought, okay, screw the in-ears. We're going back old school.
Yeah. But you quickly went back to like, wait, I got to sing 5, 6, 7 shows in a row. So
yeah.
It is actually a real good convenience in ears for your voice, especially for vocals. I've noticed that even doing my own solo shows and in club tours, because whenever you play clubs, you don't know. Every night it could be it's a different PA, obviously, and it's a different night running it if you're not have that luxury of having a monitor guy. So I'm very, when you talk about these bands that you get to open for and play shows with and co-headline with, it's like to me that is in essence shows the spectrum of what Blackberry Smoke and his music, the appeal to everyone. Because think about it, Government Mule, and then how many months later, or the next year, it's Bon Jovi. And do you find the crowd's reactions to you similar, different, or is it all in the spirit of rock and roll? They appreciate it.
I think it's all in the spirit, but a lot of it has to do with where we are. Obviously in Europe, people are just, it's a fact, they're just more open-minded musically. We're playing Sweden Rock tomorrow, and the first time that we played Sweden Rock was 2008 or 9, 10 years or so ago, and we went on right after Death Angel. And I remember standing at the back of the stage watching them perform, and I thought, and people were going crazy. It was metal, and
Right.
I was terrified. I thought, they're going to throw rotten eggs at us, I don't know, what are we doing? But we walked on stage and all these Confederate flags went up in the audience, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess.
See, in Sweden Rock, they wouldn't throw eggs because they have to eat those eggs for breakfast. There's no other place to eat breakfast out there at that festival, so there's no way. But that's cool that you could actually win that crowd over, and I'm assuming that with this Bon Jovi tour, it's more of the same, because you guys do have this appeal. You win people over, is what I'm saying, and you won me over when I saw you in kind of the smallest club setting. It was at a small awards. It was a Bandit Rock Awards, but it was at a small venue. I think it was at Hard Rock Cafe in Stockholm a couple years ago. And you came there to play an small acoustic set. But then you saw me on the side watching you, and then you just busted into Only Women Bleed by Alice Cooper. And and immediately I think the crowd and everyone said, "Hey, man, you winning them over," is what I'm saying, and it really won me over. So thanks for that. That was one of the coolest shout outs I've ever gotten, especially at the Hard Rock.
Well, thanks, man. I saw you guys. Well, I've seen you several times, but I think the first time was actually in London at the, I don't remember if it was Ramblin' Man Fair or the Stone Free Festival or something like that, but it was just fantastic. And I met Alice in Los Angeles several albums ago. I did his radio show at the time, and what a generous man with his time. And
nice to Alice Cooper. Yeah. Always makes you feel like the most important person in the room. That's how you can tell a superstar when he's a superstar, like an iconic guy like Alice, is that when he's sitting in the room talking to you, but you feel like you're the most important person.
Absolutely. I couldn't believe it. What a great fellow.
So, a couple silly things before we take off here, because I want to let you get ready for, you got a couple shows. You got Sweden Rock, you got Bon Jovi, and I guess hopefully down the line in 2019, our paths will cross again on the road. But just a couple things I have to ask, just because you've probably been asked it before, but because it's happened to Alice before, where Alice is walking down the street and someone will yell out, "Hey, Ozzy!" Does it happen? Hey, Blackstone Cherry.
Absolutely.
Because you guys you both have a similar name. It is guitar driven.
Yeah.
Is there ever any animosity, or is it just kind of like you roll your eyes up and go, "Yeah, I'm not, I'm Britney Spears, not Christina Aguilera."
Yeah. No, we just played a show with those guys last week, and it was Rocklahoma, the festival in Oklahoma. And we've known those guys since they formed. They were teenagers. We were recording our first record in north of Atlanta with Jesse Dupree from Jackal, and Jesse's friend Richard Young from the Kentucky Headhunters came in the studio one day and brought his son and his friends, and I think literally they were 17 years old, and he said, "This is my boy, and this is his band," and I don't know if I heard the name of the band that day, but I remember initially when I heard it, I was like, what are you talking about? But they were different, similar but different.
The Blackberry Blackstone tour would be something would definitely be confusing for some of the fans, but the hardcore fans, I think, are going to support no matter what.
Yeah,
right?
We threatened it a few times because I'm also really good friends with Keith Nelson from Buck Cherry, and when they were together, we threatened to put together the Buck Cherry, Blackberry Smoke, Blackstone Cherry tour. which we never did, and I'm glad.
Say that 3 times, and you win a
Yeah.
prize. You win a free ticket if you can say it 5 times.
Exactly.
So the other thing, because my name is Ryan Roxie, Charlie Starr. Is it an abbreviation of a last name, or is it something that you've grown up with, or did you just, like me, not have a backup plan when you were a kid, so you just started calling yourself Charlie Starr?
It's actually a nickname I got when I was in my early 20s. My real last name is Gray, Gray. And I never planned on a name change or anything like that. But a good friend of mine, the one who talked me into buying the Junior, he gave me that nickname, and it kind of stuck around the club scene in Atlanta. I never called myself that before, but it kind of stuck, and I don't know, I just kind of let it roll.
I was calling you CW because of your Instagram account, right? I mean,
right. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have a pretty good friend in that guy. He turned you onto your go-to guitar. He gave you basically your stage name that you've now adopted into your persona. He's a good dude, right? So
he is, yeah. Ted Lafon. He actually also he was in a band that, you remember the Four Horsemen?
Of course. Yeah.
He was in an Atlanta band, my friend Ted, who opened some shows for them. And their guitar player, Haggis, who was in the Cult and Zodiac Mind Warp and the Love Reaction previously, Haggis had these 2 Telecaster guitars. They were parts guitars. They weren't actually Fender Telecasters, but they were built by a guy in
Frankenstein LA. Put together. Yeah.
Ted wound up with one of them. I think it was a gift, and it's beautifully carved, the top. And it's a P90 guitar, parts tele. And for years, my friend Ted had that guitar, and I was offered to buy it for a decade. No, not for sale. And then he quit the last band that he ever was going to be in, basically. I think he said, I'm done with this. I'm done with bands. All right, I'll sell you this guitar. So I have that one. So, yeah, you're right. He's a great friend.
Well, next time you come on, and I hope you do come on again, because I want to dive into guitars. I want to dive more into amplifiers, because I didn't even touch on the amplifiers just yet. But I'm going to wrap it up right now and leave the people with some information on how to get in touch with you. If people want to come see a show, what's the best way to get in touch with Charlie Starr, or find anything about Blackberry Smoke?
BlackberrySmoke.com is the website, and all things social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's pretty easy to find.
Well, and you don't even have to go onto social media. You can pretty much just open up your paper, and you'll see probably an ad for you guys playing a town near you pretty soon, because you've been working nonstop, right? When did the tour start for the latest album, Find a Light, and when do you see any end in sight for it?
Well, our tour never stops for very long. It's not the typical album tour cycle for us. We just kind of tour all the time and try to release records when we can, when we have a couple of weeks off. So we usually, take the holidays off, December into early January, and that's it. We just go.
Man. Well, you guys are, I will say it, America's hardest working rock band right now that I've talked to, and I'll try and come up on your heels this year, because we start our tour in just a little while, and again, I hope our paths cross again. For now, thanks for being with me right now on In the Trenches. You've more than proven yourself as a worthy candidate for being, I don't know. I'm going to have who's going to be most in the trenches is basically what I'm looking for after I'm done with enough of these interviews. But you are right up there as one of the hardest working guys I've met.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Congrats, Charlie. And check out Charlie Starr, Blackberry Smoke, at a concert venue near you. And I am going to stop this recording, but you hang on the line really quick, Charlie, so we can talk a little bit more. But we'll see you again next time for In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie. Thanks for listening. See you guys later. Enjoy the ride.
Trenches with Ryan Roxie.